So I'll open the meeting with the public advisory. This meeting will be conducted exclusively through video conference and teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E in the state declared emergency. This meeting of the Zoning Adjustments Board will be conducted exclusively through teleconference and Zoom video conference. COVID-19 state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of members to meet safely in person and presents imminent risk to the health of attendees. Therefore, no physical meeting location will be available. If you have joined us and do not wish for your name to appear on the screen, what we've learned is it's best to sign off and sign back on, and you'll have an opportunity to rename yourself as anonymous. There will be times during the hearing when we'll be inviting members of the public attendees to offer thoughts. And when those times when you're invited to join us, if you wish to speak, you should raise your hand. Raising your hand, the way you do that is by, if you're on a screen, you'll roll your mouse over the raise hand icon at the center bottom of your screen and click on that, and a little yellow hand will pop up by your name, and I'll know to recognize you. If you are joining by phone, obviously you can't roll your mouse across the screen because you won't have one necessarily. You need to press *9 and your hand will go up next to your name and I'll be able to recognize you and you'll be able to say your piece. Please be mindful that the teleconference will be recorded, as all ZAB meetings are. All other rules of procedure and decorum still apply to this meeting conducted by teleconference, video conference, the same as they would if we were in person. That is the announcement, which takes us to roll call.
Okay, great, thank you. Still trying to figure out the closed captioning. For some reason, it's not letting me promote Sarah, captioner Sarah, to a panelist. So Brian, if you could promote her to a panelist, please. Okay. Roll call and ex parte. So when I call your name, please let us know if you are here and if you have any ex parte disclosures. Board Member Trigu?
Present, no ex parte.
Duffy?
Present, no ex parte.
Vincent?
Present, no ex parte.
Thompson?
Present, no ex parte.
Olson?
Present, no ex parte.
O'Keefe?
Present, no ex parte.
Khan?
Present, no ex parte.
Kim?
Not here.
Is absent. And Sanderson?
Not yet here.
Not here yet. Okay, but we think she's coming.
Yes, she said it would be 10 or 15 minutes after we started.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this is the time during the agenda when we welcome public comment on non-agenda matters. This would be on matters which are not on the agenda. I see one hand up, Aaron Deem, and we'll recognize you, Aaron. Or I don't seem to be empowered to recognize her.
Good evening. Can you hear me, Commission?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for your service, and thank you for being here tonight. I wanted to give an update very quickly on the Bird Safe Berkeley guidelines. And I want to say that it comes from a place of deep love for birds. I think we all love birds. They're gifts. They fly thousands of miles from South America to Alaska, where they live here among us, and they make our lives better. So I've been giving some updates at the DRC, and it was suggested that I should share some of these updates with the ZAB too, so that's why I'm here. And 2.5 years ago, the Bird Safe Berkeley Ordinance, which was written by our own SEAC Commission, was approved unanimously by our City Council. It was November 12th, 2019. And at that time, it was referred to the Planning Commission and the Planning Department for actual codification. And since then, it has remained there. 2.5 years have passed. And of course, we had COVID, which turned everything on its head. Nonetheless, we know that scores of buildings have been approved during that time period. And each one of those buildings, many of them have hundreds of panes of window glass that will kill birds. And the reason that this matters is because bird strikes with windows is the #2 killer of birds, up to 1 billion birds a year. That actually could be 10% of the bird population, like in North America. It's really significant. So it's been really quite heartbreaking because we love birds. But then on March 22nd, the good news is it did come up before the Planning Commission. And it was on the agenda, and I want to say there was very strong support, both in the community and from the commissioners themselves. 21 community members submitted public comment, either written or spoken. That's a lot for an item. And then across the commission, it was just incredibly strong support. So the way that it all ended at that meeting was, it was agreed upon that the draft of the ordinance was actually outdated, that had been written more than 3 years ago, and the author of it, Ben Gould, was the one who said this, and that he thought that it actually needed to be updated and based on guidelines like New York City's ordinance, which is kind of considered the one that we should be paying attention to, or American Bird Conservancy's model ordinance. So they said we need to update it. They agreed that the ordinance should be applied citywide. They agreed that it should be in the zoning code and not just like some kind of suggested design guidelines. And they agreed that it should be from the ground level 0 feet up to 75 or even 100 feet. And the statement made by the chair was 100 feet was actually more in line with our community. And then she referenced the peregrine falcons and talking about how much we love the peregrine falcons and how high they fly. So it's back to planning staff, and it's not clear when it's going to come back before the commission. But what was stated at that commission meeting was that in the meantime, we can use, the ZAB can actually use conditions of approval to require that bird safe glass be incorporated in buildings. And I want to say one last thing. The thing is curtains. So sometimes people may say that curtains are adequate. And this commission actually understood that it's the reflection that kills the birds. The birds see the reflection of sky or trees in the bird in the window, and they fly into the window thinking it's real. And that's why even if you draw curtains behind the window, it's not a treatment, because they can't even see the curtain. And so the chair said that the language around curtains should actually only apply to light pollution and should not be applied to bird safe standards to reduce bird strikes. So conditions of approval, they were quite unanimous, quite strong about it, that they felt that in the meantime, until this ordinance is actually codified, we should be using conditions of approval to protect the birds that we love so much. And I went on, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron, for your strong attention to this issue for quite some time. I think there's finally some headway. Jeff, you had your hand up.
Is it okay to comment on speakers in this part?
This is a time for open comment. It can be comment from the community or from this commission.
Well, I sit on the Planning Commission. I would just like to say, for the speaker's benefit, I guess, that is on our radar. And I think it's the next Planning Commission meeting that is discussing the Planning Commission work plan, of which that is one of the items on it. And so they may wish to attend that meeting and voice, voice something on that item.
Thanks, Jeff.
In terms of, yeah.
I also see Kelly Hammergren hand up, and after Kelly speaks, if there are no further communications from the public, I'd like to elect a vice chair in case I'm suddenly incapacitated for any reason. So Kelly, why don't you?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Do I have an echo? Because I have my iPad on in the other room in case I leave my computer desk here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank Erin for talking about the bird safe glass. She has really been covering that well. And I just wanted to include a little bit about climate. You know, we're getting a little reprieve today because it's a little cooler, and the heat wave from Tuesday and from last week is over. But when I turned on Democracy Now! This morning, it started off with Pakistan is having a heat wave 124 degrees Fahrenheit. And the latest stuff that I've read on science is that we are really careening towards passing 1.5 degrees within the next 3 to 5 years, centigrade, 1.5. And that was what we were supposed to try and stay under at 2100, and it's facing us in the near future. I've also been watching a webinar on the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica, and that is starting to collapse. And they're projecting that that may collapse within the next 3 to 5 years, which would be 26 inches of sea level rise. And after that collapses, then there's the risk of the rest of Antarctica starting to go, and that could be a total of 10 feet of sea level rise by 2050. So all of these things that we used to think weren't going to happen until 2100, and we would have plenty of time, we're running out. We are quickly running out of time. And I just hope that as we look at our projects, we really think about what we're doing with those projects in terms of habitat and trying and responding to climate, and doing what we can to preserve ecosystems and to really slow down this catastrophe. So that's not good news. I have to give you, and it's been a hard week, hard 2 weeks, and I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. That is hard news, but it's important that we're aware of it. So thank you. That closes the public comments portion of the meeting. I would like to proceed with the election of the vice chair. Carrie, you have your hand up, and Igor, you have yours up. Carrie, I'll recognize you first.
I'd like to recommend that Shoshana be our vice chair for the evening. You knew this was coming, Shoshana.
Beyond the shaming, do you guys want to explain? Does anyone want to explain why this has to happen again?
I know you're dying to tell us how you misbehaved, Shoshana. So yes, you have to confess your sins in publicly.
Yeah, I think I should. I think that's the right punishment.
You've got to get too much joy out of it. I can't deprive you.
It's so embarrassing. Anyone who's done leadership for one of these commissions knows you have to, if you're a chair or vice chair, you have to watch this video that reminds you of all the rules, and then you have to fill out a form saying you did it. And even if you do it over and over again, you have to do the form every year. And I did not do the form. I didn't do my homework. So I'm very sorry. But if
the dog ate it.
if you see fit to reelect me, I'll accept. And if you don't, I understand.
Well, I think Igor was about to second Carrie's motion. I don't want to deprive you of that honor.
I was, but nominations don't actually require a second.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, thank you very much for the nomination, Carrie. I appreciate it. I would like to say that I have high regard for Shoshana and her abilities as chair, as vice chair, and standing in as chair when I'm not available. So I thoroughly support this recommendation. And if there's no further discussion, I'd like to have a vote.
Okay. So this is to elect Board Member O'Keefe as Vice Chair. Board Member Trigu?
Aye.
Board Member Thompson,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
O'Keefe, do you vote too? You vote too, right?
Yeah, she's a member of the commission.
Yeah, I'll vote. And can I just say, while I have everyone's attention, right after this vote, I have to step out for just a second. I'll be right back.
Olson,
Yes,
Chairperson Khan,
Yes, it's unanimous.
Sanderson,
Not here.
not here yet, and Kim is absent.
That's right.
Okay.
Shoshana, you're excused to take care of your immediate matter, and hope to see you in a second.
There's a rat in my chicken coop. I've got to go kill it.
Well,
Yeah. So,
congratulations on your second time being elected to vice chair of this commission.
thanks.
Or
And if I
second
mess up
time this
again,
year.
if I mess up again, take it away from me forever. I don't deserve it. Anyway, thanks, guys. Appreciate
I
it.
know that. Okay, great. So that, thank you everybody for that. This brings us to the consent calendar, and before I ask the public, I'd like to know if there's any questions or concerns on this commission about the consent calendar. If you want to remove an item from consent for any reason, to speak up, or if you just have a question. Igor? And then Karen.
I don't have any issues with the consent calendar. I would like to ask staff a couple of questions. Both of them, I believe, concerning 2440 Shattuck and 2018 Blake. My two questions are, number one, I was curious how many transit passes will be provided for each unit. I did not see that in the conditions, although the transit demand management program is cited in the conditions. My second question is based on the supplemental communication that came in. Could you elucidate us on what the kind of the latest state of affairs is around staff's interpretation of when residential parking is required to not be provided to tenants in new construction?
Thank you for that, Igor. Samantha, do you have some comments?
Yes, I, for some reason, am not able to bring Sharon Gong, who's the staff planner on both of those projects, over. So maybe Brian, if you could promote Sharon to panelist. But I can speak to the residential parking permits, or to the RPP. So when the council was originally considering whether or not to deny residential parking permits for new residential uses, they I think they even maybe looked at that opinion and made the prohibition applies to all dwelling units and all housing types.
All new dwelling units.
All new yes, sorry, thank you. All newly constructed dwelling units. So whether that's single family or multi-family, group living accommodations. So I don't, I don't think that is necessarily an issue, and that our land use code is still our land use code.
Yeah, you're referring to the letter, I believe, from Dave Kellogg, Igor?
I am, and okay, so just to be clear then, are you saying if it's a new multifamily proposal, whether it includes condos or rental units?
If it's a new single family home.
Even new single family.
Oh, even new single family homes.
Yeah.
I read this this section of the code myself in preparation for the meeting, Igor.
It's
And
in Title 14, 147280 on the issuance of RPP permits. No permit shall be issued to residents in newly constructed residential units.
Great, thank you. And then, yeah, if you or Sharon could answer my TGM question.
I will defer to Sharon on that one.
Hey, yeah, yes, I can answer that question. So these projects, both of them do have a bus pass requirement. For 2440 Shattuck, the condition number 67 is where we talk about the bus pass. These are requirements for the CDMU zoning district. And so for here, we have requirement for a pass for an unlimited local bus transit service or functionally equivalent transit benefits in the amount at least equal to the price of a non-discounted unlimited monthly local pass. And on 2018 Blake, it's condition number 46, and this is not in the CDMU, it's in the R4, so the transportation demand management standard condition that applies to projects that don't have any parking per our new parking standards, are required to have one monthly pass for unlimited local bus transit service for every bedroom in each dwelling unit, up to a maximum of 2 benefits per dwelling unit, or a functionally equivalent transit benefit.
So thank you. I didn't catch for the other one for Shattuck. How many transit passes did you say were to be provided per unit?
Okay, so to each residential unit, a pass, so 1 pass per unit.
So there would be fewer units in CDMU than there would be in R4.
Fewer passes, you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did I catch that correctly? I thought
Yeah.
CDMU, interesting. I don't want to belabor this, but now I'm just curious why that is, since CDMU, I thought, allows for more density, taller development, and therefore more transit mitigations.
Mm-hmm. That is what is in the code right now. If there was a mistranslation from the old code to the new code, we'd have to look into that and see if.
I think that CDMU already had its own TDM measures when the parking reforms went into effect in 2021. I would have to research it, but I believe that CDMU standards were not changed as part of that process.
Makes sense.
And I'd be happy to look into that more and report back. It wasn't my project, so I can't say for sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Is there any follow-up questions, Igor, or should I go to Carrie? Carrie, you're next, and then you, Michael.
Thank you. I have problems with 2 of the items that are on the consent calendar, and I want to make sure with Samantha that we don't need to add that 2600 10th Street has been dropped into the consent calendar. I'm just asking for your advice. Just tell us how to handle that. My 2 issues are with Blake Street and Shattuck, and that Aaron was so kind as to come and speak to us about bird safe glass. I want to do whatever we can tonight to make sure we leave the expectation that this will match whatever the planning commission releases as the code. And sorry, Deborah, I see you're here and this is probably all Greek to you. I'm sorry, but
I know what item we're on.
we're on consent.
Good, thank you.
So anyhow, I would suggest that we need to pull both of those items and add language about the bird safe glass. And I know that Blake Street didn't go to design review. And so this is a question for staff and for you, Charles. Could we make a recommendation that it go for final? Just for final, to deal with the exterior of it because it's on a residential block. So just a thought.
Interesting thought.
And that is going to be one busy block with construction on both sides. And the first one's already approved, right? And it's through, but this one adds to it. So I would like to make sure that we give out a construction manager telephone number to the adjacent residents, because I think there'll probably be a lot of clogged street. So anyhow, my suggestion is that we hold those two items to clear those issues up. I don't have other issues with them, not with the bulk or anything, but with, or the number of units, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Carrie, we still need to hear from Deborah, but we will pull those two items, items 5 and 6, and ask that the applicant focus on the issues that you just identified, and that we really try to focus our discussion on those issues in the interest of everybody's time this evening, because in other regards, we are prepared to vote these projects through. Deborah?
I apologize for coming late, but thank you for letting me in. And my concerns were with 5 and primarily with 5. With 6, with Blake Street, I want to commend them on very good choice of their plant palette, where they focused on native species and drought-tolerant plants. I think they set a good example for other projects. So thank you for that. And my concern is with 2440 Shattuck. So if that's been pulled, I'm a happy camper.
Debbie, in the interest of assisting the applicant in answering any concerns you may have, why are you recommending that to be pulled?
I don't care if it's pulled, but I have concerns about their planting palette, plant choices that they've made, particularly that they don't appear to be drought-tolerant plants. They don't appear to be West Coast plants, where they're not. They're California native plants. And I think we could do a whole lot better with street facade. So those are my primary concerns. And and the design review recommendations, I agree with strongly. I think the building is dark and depressing. And I don't know whether the recommendation, this is a question, whether the recommendations from the design review committee become a condition of approval or from us. Do we need to act on those, or are they automatically conditions of approval?
Just for everybody's benefit, an answer to that procedural question, as Carrie mentioned, it is a standard process and part of our review process that we have final design review that takes place at a point after the ZAB approval. And in particular, because of SB 330 and the need to limit the number of meetings prior to ZAB approval, we're leaning heavily now on final design review as a means of tidying up the design. So any condition that the design review committee places on a project recommended forward to ZAB becomes a condition for the final design review and is enforceable by the design review committee. If this commission wanted to add their own, additions to that, that's always an option. I'm not certain, Carrie, procedurally, if we can, as the ZAB, Zoning Adjustments Board, this is really a question for you, Samantha. I'd like to be able to refer a project to design review for final, as Carrie has suggested, but I don't know legislatively if that's an option that we would have as the Adjustments Board. I think we probably could. It's a subcommittee to ZAB. But it's adding something to the process that's not procedurally written into the code. So do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I thought it went back for final.
No, well, we're talking about in the R3 zone, which isn't reviewed typically by design review. The design review only reviews commercial zones,
right?
I think certain of the I think the R4 zone. I'm not certain about that.
Yeah.
So this is not the R3 zone doesn't come under the design review purview, but it does fall under the ZAB purview, and on that basis, Carrie may have I just don't know. Why don't we do this? Carrie, if you'd like to make that part of a motion when that time comes, we can make it a motion subject to validation by the city attorney that that's a legit thing to do. Does that sound good?
That's okay. If the alternative is that they would have to come back to us, because I just don't think this facade is up to what we want to see. Yeah. And in particular, the south facade, which has a small little neighborhood behind it. It's
I think let's discuss all this. Let's go ahead and move to the public hearing. I appreciate Carrie, you and Debbie both identifying what your concerns are, and ask that the applicant really focus their presentation on those concerns so that we can hopefully come to a resolution quickly on this. And with that, I would like to have a vote on the items which we are not pulling from consent tonight, if someone would like to make a motion to that effect, and for the approval of the action minutes from April 28th. Do I have a motion? Igor?
Sorry, did we, before I make the motion, did we ask any attendees if there's anything else?
Oh, excuse me, yes. Before we proceed with that motion, thank you, Igor. Point of order. I would like to hear from the attendees if there are any additional items that they would like to hear. Well, don't speak actually to the items that we just pulled, because you'll have your opportunity in the public hearing to do that. But if there are any of the other items on here, items 1 through 4 or 7 and 8 that you would like to comment on or have questions about, this is your opportunity before we vote on the consent calendar. And I see, Aaron, your hand is up. So I'd like to recognize you. And I also see you, Kelly. Is your mic? We don't hear you, Aaron. I'm not sure why. You don't seem to be muted. There may be a problem with Aaron's microphone. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe we can recognize Kelly while Aaron's figuring that out.
Okay. Aaron didn't get an unmute. That was the problem. So I just want to be clear on which two we have pulled. We've pulled two.
Pull item 5 and item 6, which are Shattuck Avenue, the mixed-use building with 40 dwelling units, the proposed mixed-unit building with 40 dwelling units, and item 6, Blake Street, which is a residential with 12, 6-story, 12-unit building.
Okay, those were the two that I was concerned about. So
yeah, and you'll have an opportunity to speak to them when we discuss them in public hearing.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly. Aaron, can you speak now? I don't know what the problem
We
is.
move her hand.
Yeah, Brian, maybe you can demote Aaron and bring her back in and it'll work. I see two other people wish to speak.
All right, Aaron does have permission to talk, so.
You just sent me the message to unmute. This is Kelly. So I got an unmute again.
Well, I wonder if Erin removed her hand after it was clarified which two projects have been removed from consent.
I see two more people who want to speak on the consent calendar. Let me say that Guy and Serena, if you want to speak on items 1 through 4, 2 through 4 really, 2, 3, 4, 7, or 8, keep your hand up. If it's on 5 and 6, please put your hand down because that will be a public hearing and you'll have an opportunity to speak in the public hearing. Brian, if you could bring Guy in. Guy, you are recognized. Yes.
Hi, this is Guy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I apologize in advance that I'm I don't really know how this process works, but I wanted to comment about 2018 Blake. Is that?
You'll have a chance in the public hearing. Don't worry.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming tonight. Serena, Brian, if we could bring Serena in, and you can demote Kelly and Guy.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Serena.
Yes, Serena.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering if the board members received comment from me, Serena Lim. I'm both the applicant and one of the owners of the 2970 Adeline project. And if you did have a chance to read my comments, I won't repeat them here, but if you didn't, I would
Serena, your item is still on consent, so I think you'll be approved tonight if there's no one wishing to remove it, and it doesn't appear there is. So I think you're in good shape.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. All right, I don't see any other hands up. I would like to then recognize Igor.
I'd like to move the consent calendar, which would include item 1, the minutes from April 28th, item 2, 1151 Grizzly Peak Boulevard for the purpose of continuance to September 8th, item 3, 2970 Adeline. That would be an approval. Item 4, 1208 Keynes for approval. Item 7, 1828 Euclid for approval. Item 8, 906 to 908 Ensenada for approval. And if this is acceptable, I would like to add to the consent calendar item 9, 2600 10th Street for the purpose of taking no action on the item.
No. Nope.
Samantha, the 2600 10th Street, what's the status of that one?
So the AUP has actually been withdrawn. The administrative use permit has been withdrawn by the applicant, so there is no longer a project.
Okay, so I will remove that from the motion.
I think that's best. It's less messy that way. Thank you, Igor, for the motion. Carrie? You're muted, Carrie.
Sorry, I second Igor's motion as stated.
Thank you, Carrie. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote, Samantha.
Okay, great. So this is to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. Board Member Trigu?
Aye.
Thompson? You cut off a little bit there. And now you're muted.
Yes, sorry about that.
Vincent?
Aye.
Duffy?
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Keefe?
Yes, the minutes are on this, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh,
can I
yeah, I'm
abstain?
sorry. Yes.
You didn't mention it, but they
Oh, I did,
were.
because it's item number 1.
Right. Anyway, can I abstain from the minutes? I wasn't here last week. Thank you.
Actually, if it's possible to do that, I would normally abstain from minutes when I wasn't at the meeting. We do it separately in Planning Commission. So are you suggesting that you can you can abstain from the minutes part and vote yes on the rest? Okay. I guess for the record, I would prefer to do that if that's possible.
Updated. Let's see. Olson?
Yes.
Chairperson Khan?
Yes, and although I wasn't present last time, we have been told by the city attorney that I can still vote for them, and it's sometimes necessary to do that to secure a majority vote. So I'm voting for them.
And Sanderson?
Yes, and I wanted to confirm, because I was late, that I had no ex parte discussions on any of the items.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
And then Kim is absent.
Okay. Very good. So the consent calendar passes unanimously. And I never say this right, Igor, so you'll have to fix it for me if I don't. But it means 2970 will be continued, but the 1208 Keynes has been approved and is subject, of course, to the standard appeal period. That 1828 Euclid is also approved, as is 906, 908, and Sonata Avenue. Also, those two items are subject to the standard appeal period before it becomes law. Very good. So with that, I would like to proceed to the public hearing for 2440 Shattuck. The first item that Carrie requested be pulled from consent, and that Debbie also wished to see pulled, and would like to invite the planner to present the project to us, and the applicant to speak, in particular on the issues that were identified, if possible, by Carrie and Debbie, which is the bird safe glass issue and the drought tolerant native plant question. And I think Sharon, you're the planner.
I am. Thank you. So I'll give a very brief presentation. This is use permits for 2440 Shattuck Avenue, use permit to demolish one existing commercial building and construct an 8-story mixed-use building with 40 dwelling units and 2,160 square feet of ground floor commercial space. The project site is in the CDMU zoning district in the corridor sub area. It is on the north side of Hayes Street, on the corner of Shattuck with Hayes. The surrounding area consists of commercial, mixed use, residential, and medical office buildings ranging from 1 to 5 stories in height. The project site is currently developed with a 1-story, 6,500 square foot concrete commercial building, which until recently contained a Dollar Tree store. So the proposed project would consist of the following: the demolition of the existing building and the construction of a building with 40 dwelling units, 7 1-bedroom, 19 2-bedroom, 14 3-bedroom, 2,160 square feet of commercial space for 2 retail tenants on the ground floor, bicycle storage for 44 bikes, and residential amenities on the ground floor, including community kitchen, office, lounge with fireplace, and space for cubicles and conference room, and usable open space of 1,150 square feet located on the 8th floor terrace fronting on Shattuck Avenue. The project is a density bonus project, and has a base project of 30 units, is providing 3 very low income units for a density bonus of 32.5% of the base project, which equates to 10 bonus units for a proposed final project of 40 units. The project is asking for waivers to parking, height, setback, usable open space, and privately owned public open space, and a concession to decrease the commercial parking in the project. And all of this is to provide, to fit the density bonus project on the site. And the project is SB 330. This hearing is the 3rd public hearing for the project. And so the city can hold up to 2 additional public hearings for this project if needed. And one of those hearings needs to be reserved for the city council in case there's an appeal. Finally, the project is HAA compliant, Housing Accountability Act compliant. It complies with all applicable objective general plan and zoning standards. And if the city wishes to deny or reduce the density of the project, it needs to make specific findings of specific adverse impact to public health or safety, and that there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate the specific adverse impact. So that is the project, and I am here to answer any questions that you have.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. Carrie, do you have any questions for Sharon? I see your hand up.
Yes, I would like you to tell us what they're planning for bird safe glass and what the city can right now, what do you think the city can right now require as part of this application?
I'm going to let the applicants talk about what bird safe glass is being proposed in the project. We currently do not have a condition, I believe, for bird safe glass and bird safe glass requirement.
Could I ask what, if anything, the city can do once a project is approved, once that permit has been given? Is there, and then subsequently there is a new zoning reg that says they have to have it. Is there anything that can be done? Or is this our only moment to have any say?
I believe that the moment of approval is approval according to the standards that are in place at the time of the approval. So if any requirements regarding bird safe glass come in after the approval, then they are not subject to it.
Thank you.
Okay, I see, Deborah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I, in my hurriedness, forgot there was another issue. Can you explain why they need the waiver to do, to reduce the residential usable open space? I had thought it was because they had solar panels on the roof, but it seems to me there's quite a bit of roof that is not occupied with solar panels. So I would like to understand how that, why that waiver is recommended. And while I have you, issue of bird safe glass, you know, I would like at some point for there to be some clarity or explanation to the ZAB on when bird safe glass is really needed and when it's not. My understanding is 10 years old, so things clearly could have changed, that you needed the bird safe glass when you had more than a certain expanse of glass, but not when you had smaller windows or windows that had mullions between them that the birds could see. So it may not be for this time, but maybe for some time, if the staff could give us some background on when you need bird-safe glass and when you don't, just store that one away. But otherwise, I'd like to know more about how that waiver is justified.
Okay, I think we do need to get back to you on the bird safe glass.
Yeah, don't need to do it now, but
okay.
anyway, I think it would be good to give us the big picture of bird safe glass.
Mm-hmm.
If I could speak on the bird safe glass issue, it is before Jeff and the Planning Commission, and I think that if one of the ways of protecting birds is to have smaller pane glass, that would de facto be bird safe glass and should be one of the items recognized as such in any statute.
Okay.
So in terms of the waiver, Sharon, do you want to tackle that, or would you like to leave that to the applicant?
I'm going to rely on the applicant to back up their request for the waiver for usable open space.
I have my theory about that, but I'd like to hear from them too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the density bonus projects require that if waivers are requested and seem reasonable to accommodate the project on the site, then staff needs to accept it.
Right. Yeah, good question, Deborah. Jeff, I see your hand. Are you done, Deborah?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yeah, I just wanted to just provide some info on the bird safe glass. I mean, again, like I said, it's on our work plan, but it's, it's getting bumped because of all of these state required things like housing element, et cetera. That's partly why, it hasn't been agendized again. But in terms of the technicality of it, the last meeting where it was on the agenda, which I would have to look up, it's a handful, well, it's a number of months ago now. Anyway, there's a pretty good material in there, an update from staff and advocates on kind of what the state of the art is on sort of the technical recommendations, height and glass, et cetera, if folks want to look at that. And my understanding is that, and I think someone mentioned it earlier, is that what was put forth before, prior, now I want to say it's Audubon Society, but that may not be right, has come up with sort of new, improved, better guidance based on some of what they've learned through the science and looking at what's happened. And part of it is take the city, staff taking a look at that and seeing if that's the direction we want to go. But anyway, in the last time this was on the agenda for Planning Commission, there was pretty good technical information on that, which I think Deborah or Carrie just kind of asked about.
Thanks, Jeff. If you could forward the link for the date for that commission hearing to Samantha, she can see that the commissioners here are made aware of when that was presented, and it'll give us a chance to review those guidelines that were recommended for our future edification.
I think it's March 2nd, 2022. I just found it in my notes. That's
very good.
Stephanie, you could get that agenda. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, then if there are no further questions for staff, I'd like to welcome the applicant to the hearing to present the project. And I think you're aware of the issues, the concerns. We now have identified 3 that we would like you to focus on. How bird safe glass is being addressed, how the native and drought tolerant plant issue is being addressed, and the necessity for the open space waiver. So Dave, are you going to be coming on? Dave Johnson, I believe, is the architect for the project. Brian, if you could bring him on. And then Bill, where's Bill? Bill Schrader. I thought I saw him earlier. William Schrader, if you could recognize him and bring him on board.
Dave Johnson's here.
Anybody else, Dave, that you and Bill would like?
No, just Bill and I is fine. That's fine.
Very good. And we have how many minutes? 5 minutes, I think, for your presentation. Up to 5.
Bill, do you want to start? Or?
Yeah. Let me start. I think maybe I might be able to knock all 3 of them out. Thanks to the ZAB commissioners and the chair and the new vice chair for having us here tonight. Was hoping we'd get through consent calendar so we can go watch the Warriors game, but I'll be happy to answer the questions for you. As far as the rooftop itself, we've unfortunately, as the Title 24 requirements have gotten tighter and tighter, it looks like in order to meet Title 24 now, we actually need to do heat pumps. So we need a place to put our compressors. And so, Dave probably has a drawing they might be able to bring up if you wanted to see it, but about half the roof is compressors and the other half is all solar panels. I've been doing solar on every project since 2015. I think we have right now roughly a 20 kilowatt system designed. As far as drought tolerant plants, California native plants, that is our intention. That is our landscape architect's intention. I did not have him come on tonight, but we certainly, that is certainly our plan. That's what we try to do on every project. So if you want to make a condition or something that says we have to put in drought tolerant and California native, that would be fine. And then the last one, the bird safe glass was of course brought up by Aaron in our design review committee meeting. And, we're all still kind of learning about this. So what we've done, and I think, Dave, it was about a month ago, we were at DRC. Yeah. Since then, we have ordered samples from a company that sent us a 20-pound package of all kinds of different glass that we've been looking at. And we've given that to our contractor to have him work with our glass and glazing people to try to figure out exactly how to install bird safe glass, still meeting Title 24, still doing dual pane. And right now, even though it's not a condition, it was a recommendation from DRC, it is our intention for the entire south-facing ground floor, which includes our lobby where we have this big green wall that comes from the outside through the lobby glass into the interior of the lobby, that we would put bird safe glass there. I think Aaron, in fact, pointed out that that is the place that's probably the most dangerous for birds because they're going to see these plants on the inside through clear glass and they're going to fly into the glass. So we're working on that right now. And it is our intention on the south side of the building to do exactly that on the ground floor.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
And we have a presentation, Charles. If you guys wanted to see that south-facing ground floor, we'd be happy to pull that up on the screen so people can see it.
Thanks. I don't think that's going to be necessary, and okay. I appreciate. But in Q&A, you may be asked to do that, or you can elect to show that, of course, in response to public comment. Very good. Well, thank you, Bill and Dave, for that. Any questions to the applicants before we proceed to public comment? Debbie, I see your hand is up. Debbie, you are muted still.
When I'm looking at the roof plan, A1.3, I see 15% solar zone. I see the elevator and the penthouse stair access, and there's something called built-up roofing. I don't know what built-up roofing is, but I don't see anything about your equipment on the roof. So perhaps this plan is out of date, this roof plan. So if you could address that, I'm happy to go to accept it if there is additional equipment on this roof that's not shown here, but I'd certainly like that kind of confirmation. And the second issue I'd like you to address separate, not just from the plants themselves, but the the street facade has a big tree, you have your green wall, but there are lots of spaces that are, I think, still on your property, even under that roof, the overhang, where you could put in some planters that would soften the streetscape there. There is nothing green along either side on the Shattuck side of the property. And so my question is, why not do a little more landscaping on the Shattuck side with some planters or something that could soften the facade of the building and provide a little more greenery, because certainly we need it in that area. So those are my two issues.
Is that a question?
Yeah, I'd like to know, I'd like to understand better the roof plan, and I'd like to understand better if they were willing to add more landscaping along the sidewalk area.
Gotcha. Dave, do you or Bill?
Yeah, I think Charles, can I share my screen here? I don't have an option to share it.
If Brian can figure out how to help you do that. You're certainly supposed to be able to share your screen as the applicant. Brian, do you know to?
Yeah, he can be a panelist right now, and then.
Yeah, I think he wasn't promoted to panelist. Do you have it now?
Yeah, sure. Dave.
I think Brian tried to promote me instead of Dave.
No, Dave's a panelist now.
Yeah.
That's to start video.
Okay, I'm here. Let me get my screen here. Share screen. Host. Okay. Does host disabled participant screen sharing?
That's not true. we've always been able to share.
I would like to clarify on the roof. The roof terrace that we have is at the 7th level. When you mentioned the roof is at the 8th level, where we couldn't have any open space because it cannot be occupied. It would make it a high rise. So our open space is the terrace at the 7th level. And in order to get the amount of units we needed, we had to ask for that waiver.
Right.
To address that.
So explain to me why, I'm sorry, why you can't put any additional open space on the roof?
It would make, if it's occupied, it makes it that would be on the 8th story, which is above 75 feet, which makes it a high rise, which changes the whole complexion of the building and the costs. It doesn't work. So
okay,
that was the thought process was the terrace was where we had our open space, and in order to maximize the units per the density bonus, it did compromise the amount required.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. That's what I suspected that was the real reason.
Yeah.
You should also be able to share your screen now. I'm sorry.
It's still saying okay, let me try again. Okay, there you go. So this is our 7th or 8th level, but anywhere on the roof would make it a high rise. So
okay,
can't do that. So that's how we got to the terrace. The streetscape. Let me go to that plan.
That was A1.1. There we go.
I'm showing the landscape plan here for for Haste and Shattuck.
Correct.
The Haste sidewalk is only 8 feet wide, so we really can't do much more. I mean, Bill's got this elaborate green wall, as you pointed out, which I'll show you here, facing Haste off the lobby.
My concern was Shattuck.
Yeah. Nothing came up in our discussions with the city arborist on addressing more landscaping, but certainly we have, there are planters. There's a 3-foot wide planter for each one of these trees. There's a circular planter in the plaza here. Any more, we just didn't feel it was necessary to create the street presence we're after. This is the view from Shattuck.
Right.
So we just didn't think it was necessary to create that nice cityscape.
So the planters that I see on the landscape plan have trees in them only, not additional plants.
That's correct.
And so I was wondering why we couldn't have, and if I'm the only one with this concern, then forget it. But, you know, I was thinking you could do a little more along the sidewalk there adjacent to the building under the, still being on your property, but in the corners of the building there.
Yeah, we've maximized, the building goes out to the property line, so we don't have the room to add any planters that, unless it was on public property. And Bill, you want to chime in on that?
Well, Deborah, maybe we could do this. Maybe when we go back to design review, we can look at that. Dave, can you put the site plan up for the ground floor? There's one corner right there between two retail spaces where we might be able to tuck something in right there.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact any entries or exits.
Right.
I'd be happy to look at that. We've done it on other projects. It's not a problem. It's just this one's a little tighter than normal. That's all.
Okay. Well, if you could look at that, I think as much greenery as we can get on a sidewalk, then the healthier people will be. And so if you could do that, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, that's no problem. And Charles is on design review. He can hold my feet to the fire. No problem.
Good.
Well, we can make that a condition, Debbie.
Okay. Thank you.
So very good. I don't see any more questions from this committee, so I'd like to open it up to the attendees. And for some reason, I seem to have lost my. Oh, here we go. Okay, and we have Kelly and Aaron who wish to speak, and I am sure. Well, I suspect it's on the items that we've identified as concerns. Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Really, bird-safe glass at the ground level is really inadequate. I mean, we appreciate that it's next to this green wall, but that really is inadequate for being bird-safe. The American Bird Conservancy has a model ordinance. It's the same as in New York. It's easy to look up. And that is 0 to 75 feet, all four sides, not just next to that greenery. So that's really disappointing. And, you know, there's another thing that can be done to make glass bird safe, and that's to have windows with screens on the outside. You know, and if you had screens on windows that have screens on the outside, it means that the people living there can take advantage of windows that open and have fresh air. And hopefully we have fresh air to breathe. That would be very nice. So I wanted to make that comment. It's really disappointing that for this density bonus, we're only getting 3 low-income units. When we really need so much more low income affordable housing in this city, and 3 units hardly makes a dent in that. Also, I would ask, since Mr. Schrader was so willing to have a requirement for native plants, I would ask that you do put that in. That would be great. And that one space in the front that Deborah Sanderson was just talking about, adding greenery, that's quite a big space. And the tree that they plan to put there is non-native, and it grows to like 60 feet tall. So that's a pretty significant tree, and we could replace that with a native tree. Looking at some of the oaks, that would be totally fabulous.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, to put that in that spot. I guess I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
Oh, fantastic. I got the unmute button. Can you
We can hear you. We can hear
click
you.
off and rejoin? Okay, so thank you so much for the attention to the bird safety. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a couple of factoids that I've learned. So the size, that's important. The treatment patterns are required to be smaller than 4 inches by 2 inches. So 4 inches wide and 2 inches taller. It's called the 2x4 rule. Any space that is untreated that is bigger than that, a bird can fly through. They're really small. And if you think about how birds can fly through trees, so it's actually quite a small space where there needs to be some kind of visual clue to the bird that there's in fact is a solid object there. I appreciate the offer to put the bird safety on the south side, but it really does need to be applied to all sides. The DRC had said a recommendation was bird safe glassing, especially at the green wall and the ground floor storefront. So for sure, the whole wraparound. But the New York City ordinance is the exterior wall envelope and any associated openings shall be constructed with bird-friendly materials up to 75 feet above grade, and they shall not exceed, non-treated, shall not exceed an aggregate of 10 square feet within any 10 feet by 10 feet square area. So basically, the entire building has to be treated from ground up, all sides of the building, and that is the standard, and that the treatment needs to show them no bigger than a 4x2 space. And lastly is a quote from Dr. Christine Shepard, who is the leader of the American Bird Conservancy's Glass Collision Program. So luckily, it is possible to retain the advantages of glass, providing clarity of view, insulation, and structure, while significantly reducing the risk of collision by birds. And she says that the key is also, so that you don't incur a lot of extra costs, is to do this from the very beginning. So let's take care of our beloved birds. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I see no one else from the public wishing to speak. I do see Igor, you, and Kiri. And we will close the public hearing and open it to comments from this commission. Igor? Oh, before we do that, Bill, I want to offer you and Dave an opportunity to respond to any of the comments from the public. You have, I think, a minute for response.
Yeah, I mean, Dave and I think are on to our 6th project in town. We've been really cooperative along the way since 2015, I think, was our first one. I just don't know enough about bird glass and the cost and how you actually implement it yet to say whether I would be willing to agree to a condition for the entire building. I'm not even sure the design review committee or the planning commission knows enough yet. So I couldn't at this point. I don't know if it's going to cost $10,000 or $1 million. I don't know. So I can't agree to a condition for the entire building. I know that I can cover an overrun for the glass on the ground floor, and I'm happy to wrap it around onto Shattuck for the entire ground floor. And I've seen the glass. Erin is correct. There's like 20 different samples that they sent us, and they all are at least like no bigger than about 2 inches by 2 inches apart in all kinds of different configurations. Some of them look like the glass is scratched. Some of them look like they have polka dots like you see at the new hotel. So at this point, I just don't know enough to agree to a condition of approval for the entire building. I couldn't agree to that.
Thank you for that response, Bill. Igor, I think you're first and then you're next, Kiri.
Yeah, thank you. I actually had another question I should have brought up sooner for the applicant. Would you be willing to agree to a condition to provide 2 transit passes per unit, like where it makes sense? So not the studios, but the other, well, configurations where there may be, more than one bedroom, which is something that we have seen on projects on San Pablo, and looks like the CDMU didn't get the type of love around TDM that other parts of the city did when the council revised its parking standards. But just wanted to ask you if that is something you'd be agreeable to.
Sure. Based upon the other projects I've built, basically what we do is we buy the transit passes at a discount because you can buy them in bulk. We put them in a drawer in the manager's office, and anybody wants them anytime can come and get them. Nobody uses them. They just don't. And I think the reason, from my understanding, is most of the buildings are filled with students, and the students get transit passes when they register for class, so they don't really need them. And then the only people who really end up using them are staff members. And we really just, and our managers for these projects tend to be students, usually graduate students or upper level students. So the answer is yes, I'd be happy to agree to that. You just need to know they don't end up getting used. So we just keep, if we run out, we just buy more and put them in the drawer, and if anybody needs them, we don't really pay attention to one per bedroom or per unit or any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Igor. Is that it? Carrie?
Thank you. The Warriors are about 44 seconds away from winning, by the way. Sorry if any of you are recording it, but it's all.
No, I'm recording it.
No spoilers.
Yeah, thanks.
If I had my mute off all the time, you'd hear my husband yelling in the background. Wonderful about the native and the drought resistant. I want to point out that little corner you're pointing to on Shattuck Avenue will be used as a sleeping spot or worse. And you guys know this because you already have buildings in places where you know this is. So I would suggest not just one plant, but really do something nice there instead, so it'll be a pleasant amenity. About the bird safe glass, 6 projects in town, huh? I think I did design review on a lot of those, Bill, and I love them, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're doing projects, but these buildings are going to be here for 100 years. And if we're lucky, for longer. And you're going to do just fine by them. And you don't have the answers, we don't have the answers, but we know it has to happen. And realistically, it needs to be all the walls, all the way up, every window, not just the south side. So I realize that we can't require that you do this yet, but that day will come. So I think it's in everyone's interest to figure out how to make that happen. And it certainly would be wonderful to have this be the first project. So with that said, I'm ready to make a motion when you're ready for it, Charles.
You're the last person with the hand up, so please make a motion.
Okay, then I'm going to make a motion that we approve the proposed project for 2440 Shattuck Avenue with these exceptions, that we send landscaping to final design review with the expectation that all plants, including those trees, be drought resistant and native, that there be as many extra plants or plantings as possible on Shattuck Avenue, in particular, the little area that juts out, the corner that it makes there, and that we will expect extra transit passes. Thank you very much, Bill. I understand why people don't use them, but you're going to have 3 low-income units there. You'll have users there, and that with all good intent, that the developer and architect will try to find a solution to incorporate bird safe glass into this project now. But if not now, then as soon as is feasible and at least have a plan for it. And I just want to bring back something Charles said earlier. It could be that it's multiple paned glass that's the solution. And something that Kelly brought up, it could be that there are screens on the outside. And I don't know if you plan on screens, but if you did, that might be it. So that's my motion.
Igor, thank you, Carrie, for the motion. Do I have a second? Igor?
Oh, sure. I was going to second unless Debbie wants to, but I wanted to.
Go for it. I don't care.
I wanted to ask the maker of the motion if she would accept an amendment just on the transit passes that the condition would say 1 bedroom or above will be eligible for 2 transit passes.
Done. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then just one area that is oft overlooked that over the last year in my current role I've been looking at intensely. I would like to commend the applicant for being ahead of your time in putting up solar panels as well as heat pumps in a high-rise building, which Title 24 defines as over 3 units right now. The new energy code that will mandate that will go into effect January 1st of next year. So the fact that you are doing this now is commendable, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for those comments, Igor. I would also like to make a friendly amendment to your motion, Carrie. I believe the standard for natives and drought-tolerant plants is not 100%, but somewhere in the 75 to 80% to give some latitude for diversity in the plants. Would you be up into an 80% recommendation?
I'm fine with that. And because I was on that committee for so long, I know you have a landscape architect. You can figure it out, and I trust you totally to figure it out. That's why I wanted it to be.
I think it was even one of our conditions, but I like it being a ZAB condition. So that's great. Thank you for that. Debbie, is that acceptable to you as the seconder?
It's acceptable to me, and also drought tolerant is sort of a vague term, but I think if you look at the plans for the one on Blake Street, there's a little chart there that talk about whether they're low water use or are native or not. And there's some lovely trees that are native and low water use. So I don't know where low water use becomes drought tolerant, but certainly low water use plants is the intent, because it's going to get drier and hotter here, not wetter and cooler.
That's true.
So let's build to the future.
Charles,
I accept that.
Before you take a vote, can I toss something out real quick?
If you have a suggestion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the trees on both Shattuck and on Haste were dictated to us by the urban gardener on staff. So I can't really tell you whether those are native, not native. They were dictated to us.
Well, what I would ask Bill then is that when you come to final design review, that you bring email, a note, something from the gardener, identifying that they wouldn't accept a drought tolerant or native alternative.
Okay.
Thank you. Because that is the request of this commission. All right. I think then we should take a vote. Samantha?
Okay, I want to read back the additions to make sure I have them all correct. And actually, one of them I didn't understand, so maybe I could, Board Member Olson, if you could clarify about incorporating bird-safe glass into the design now.
We cannot require.
It's a recommendation.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so this is to approve 2440 Shattuck Avenue with the following added conditions. For the landscaping to go to final design review with the expectation that 80% of plantings will be drought tolerant and native. To include more plantings along Shattuck, to increase the number of transit passes so that 1 bedroom and above are eligible for 2 transit passes, and then the recommendation to incorporate bird safe glass into the design now.
Yeah, I would say specifically what Carrie meant by that, to incorporate bird safe glass, not just at the ground floor, but up to 75 feet, as is the ABC recommendation on all 4 sides of the building.
Okay, up to 75 feet on all 4 sides.
That's right.
Great.
Is that right, Carrie? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, Board Member Trigu.
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Keefe,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Chair Khan,
Yes.
Sanderson,
Yes.
and Kim is absent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you have your approval from the zoning board with those conditions, and the usual appeal period will apply.
We'll see you in design review, and I want to offer up a quick thank you to Sharon Gong. I'm sure you guys are all aware, she's like the only planner still standing in Berkeley, and
A few senior planners left, yeah.
she's been very professional and helpful on this project and others, and always has been. I just wanted to offer up a public thank you to her.
I appreciate you recognizing our efforts, Bill. Our planning staff is grossly underappreciated, in my opinion, and Sharon in particular. What you've been doing this last year is Herculean and much appreciated.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Bill. All right, then we have our final item, I believe, tonight, which is item 6, 2018 Blake Street for a public hearing. And I believe that here the main issues were, again, the bird safe glass question, and Carrie had a concern about the design of the building, which, Carrie, I think given that this isn't subject to design review committee, it does fall on this board to address those questions. So with that, who is the planner? It's Allison. No, it's Sharon again. Okay.
That would be me again.
That would be you again, Sharon.
Okay, thank you. So I will talk about 2018 Blake Street a little bit. Use permits, ZP 2021-0095 to construct a 6-story multifamily residential building with 12 units, including 2 low-income units. The project site is located on the south side of Blake Street in the R4 district. Adjacent parcels to the north are occupied by 1-story commercial and industrial buildings. Parcels to the west, immediate east, and to the south are occupied by 1- and 2-story single and multifamily dwellings. Parcels beyond the R4 district further east of the site are occupied by 1- and 2-story commercial buildings, and that's in the CAC district. The parcel across the street and to the northeast at 2029 Blake Street is occupied by a recently constructed 5-story 82-unit mixed-use building. Use permits for other large projects were approved within the past 2 years on the same block. A 6-story 113-unit community care facility for seniors at 2000 Dwight Way at Dwight and Milvia, and a 7-story 155-unit multifamily building right across the street at 2015 Blake. The site is currently occupied by remnants of a single-family dwelling that was burned down in 2019. The building was deemed hazardous by the building official and was technically completely demolished in 2020. So the project it involves the construction of a residential building with components of 12 dwelling units, one bedroom, one bedroom, 5 4-bedrooms, 6 5-bedroom, 2 low-income units, 2,433 square feet of usable open space at the ground floor landscape and patio areas, and 2 roof decks. And this is a 6-story building. The project is also a density bonus project. It is a 8-unit base project, has 2 low-income units. That's right, 2 low-income units, not very low income, which gives it a 50% bonus. It's 25% of the base project, and it achieves a 50% density bonus, which equates to 4 units, making it a 12-unit project. And the project is also subject to SB 330, and subject to the 5-meeting rule. Let's see, we only have, this is the first public meeting actually, so we are able to have 4 additional meetings, one of them being one for the city council in case there's an appeal on the project. And finally, it is a project that's compliant with the Housing Accountability Act. It is compliant with all applicable objective general plan and zoning standards, and the city cannot deny or reduce the project unless it makes specific findings for specific adverse impact to public health and safety, and there is no feasible method to mitigate the specific adverse impact. And with that, I am available for any questions on the project.
Thank you, Sharon. I see Igor has a question.
Thank you, Sharon. Great presentation as always. Okay, could you just clarify? I am very fixated on transit passes today. How many are the minimum requirements now in the R4 zone on a per unit basis? And is it on a per unit basis or is it on a per bedroom basis here?
So it is per dwelling, per bedroom in each dwelling unit. So these are under the new transportation demand management requirements that were passed or approved along with the parking reform ordinance. So what's required is 1 monthly pass for every bedroom in each dwelling unit, up to a maximum of 2 per dwelling unit.
Okay, so I'm seeing, you mentioned, I think, that there were some 4-bedroom units, so they would receive a maximum of 2 passes.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Igor. If there are no further questions for Sharon, I'd like to invite the applicant to join us. Sharon, do you know who that is? And can you?
Yes, that is the architect Fang Huan, and I believe is he here? He should be. Brian, do you know if he's here? There he is.
Yeah. Hi.
There's also a Fang Huan who.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hi, everyone. So my name is Fang. Yeah, I'm the project architect. Can I actually share screen? I prepared.
You should be able to share a screen.
I think he needs to be promoted.
I can just promote you. Yeah, that's fine. Try now.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. Let me share screen really quick. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hi. So
wait a minute. Sorry. I can see the screen. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thanks everyone for coming today. So I will present. My name is Fang. So I'm the architect for this project. So thanks Sharon for the introduction. So this project is located at 2018 Blake Street. At the neighborhood at that street, it actually consists of a couple of different various type of different building type. There's a warehouse and there's also multifamily buildings actually right across the street. 2035 235 Blake Street. So the project itself is 6-story. It have 12 units, as Sharon said. The total square footage is actually 13. It's about 13,000 square feet. So again, this building, the lot size is about 5,200 square feet. It's about equal to 0.212 acres. The house, yes, sadly, is actually the previous house is burned down at 2019. Right now, it's only a perimeter wall is still standing there, but it's at unsafe condition. You can see a kind of image I put Google Street image I put together actually across street as 2015 Blake and 2019 Blake. It's a warehouse. Existing is a warehouse, industrial buildings, and that's 2035 Blake is actually a new development for 82 units. At the corner of this street, the 2034 Blake is a medical supply retail, and 2030 Blake and 2016 are all apartment buildings actually that's two sides of the building, the neighbors. So we are actually designed this using density bonus, 8 base units, 2 actually low-income units, and we actually propose to do the reduction is reduce the rear setback to 15 feet from level 1 to level 6, and reduce side setback to 4 feet from 1 to 6, and also increase lot coverage to 49% from level 1 to level 6. So again, the existing site is we actually the existing condition is burned down. So we're actually proposing 2 separate structure. One is toward the front at the Blake, and one structure. So one structure is here. The second part is actually at the back. So we are using an open to air corridor to connect these 2 parts. So the reason to do this is actually to minimize the shadow impact to the neighbors, and to give them more openness of the open air, more maximize the sunlight and open air exposure to the front and the back structures. So at the floor plan, we have the MEP space and also utilities. The lobby is sitting at the front of the structure, and at the back, at the front there's also a units. At the back, there's another units. Between them, actually, there is a central courtyard type of communal space.
We have a minute left, Fang, just to let you know.
Okay. Yeah, then from level 2 to level 6, there's each of the level, that 2 units. So for the material, we're actually using the vertical board form concrete actually at level 1. That is equal to the neighbor building actually use stone veneer for the apartment building. That's why we're using concrete at level 1. Then stucco is marked at the background, and the cement board is actually rotated to different directions actually to create a shade and shadow for the facade to break the boxness of the feelings. One thing I want to mention about the landscape, we actually did the central courtyard as a communal space, and also there's a roof deck, two parts of roof deck at the top. We actually create a kind of open space at the top. Then at the roof, we would there's planting area, raised plants around the perimeter of the wall, and also that will be a barbecue facility on the rooftop. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you very much for that. Questions from the commissioners? Carrie, I see your hand is up.
Hi, I'd like to know what material is on the floor of those external walkways.
Yeah, right now we are thinking about using actually it will be a metal corridor, metal panels.
On the ground floor?
Yeah, on the open corridors.
I think Carrie's asking actually on the surface of the earth.
I'm talking about the surface of those walkways.
Oh, the walkways, okay.
And the picture on the right side of A0.1 makes it seem as if they're glass.
So it actually will be metal panels actually.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. We have, I'd like to open it to the public for comment. I have two people with their hands up. Is anyone else? I see John and Aaron and Kelly. I see John and Aaron and Guy. Is anyone else from the public who'd like to speak on this item? Okay, in that case, I'll recognize John. Your hand was up first. And you have 3 minutes, John. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So I just want to oppose the project. I think it's overdone. I think it's way over built, if you will. And I don't think it serves any purpose other than to make him money. So I oppose it.
Can I say something? You guys, I heard you guys talking about the bird, protecting bird. We are seniors living here. We have no ability to protest or organize anything. You guys can protecting birds. Why not can protecting seniors?
Yeah.
We living here ages, and we cannot do any protest. And this project definitely is run for money. They so-called no income. There is nothing. Who can afford? You know, and then huge building nearby. Where we park now?
Yeah.
How can we park? The project said that they're not blocking sun. Oh, that's a lie. You guys can come over here and look. That map, the matched. That's not a match at all. I mean, six tall building cannot block neighbor's sun. That's absurd. So I was kind of strongly opposed. You guys can protecting a bird, but why not can not protecting a seniors? We're nothing.
Yeah.
That's my thinking. I'm not talking about like a noisy pollution or whatever. As a human being, we are seniors. We are supposed to be protected as well. And then this project, 100% is for money. Why they build up so tall? If you like a 3-story, I'm okay, but not 6. We don't have sunshine at all. And we are living here 40 years. Come on. We're just like a bird, need to protect as well. Please don't ignore us. One little potato, how can we pronounce our voice? Nobody listen. We're just adjacent to it, really noisy. And across street will be a big project as well, where we park. We have nothing left over. We're squeezed. no sunshine, no parking place. Even in the future, this is such a tall building. They have tons of young guys living inside. They aim at the Berkeley, UC Berkeley students. And the water, they will use the water. We even influence in the future. We cannot use the water either.
Thank you for your comments. That's your 3 minutes.
You just remember we are both seniors.
Yes. Thank you for your comments. I'd like to recognize the next person, Aaron D.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my comment. I actually want to sympathize with the prior speaker, and that having all the shading and parties and everything could be just very detrimental to the quality of life. And I think this is a real challenge. And I want to acknowledge that and think it's a real concern. I am going to speak about birds because I actually would like, if it's possible, to pull up the image. It's actually in A0.1. And I believe in this open air corridor that they have glass guardrails on the raised walkways. And there was an image flashed up also of the rooftop, and that I believe there's a glass windscreen around the roof deck. Those are, I almost don't know how to say it nicely. That's an absolute death trap for birds. So this absolutely must not, something has to be done so that if there's a glass guardrails and there's a glass windscreen, that they cannot be transparent to the birds. I mean, this is from the Toronto best practices. And, you know, the earlier developer was saying that like the science is not unknown. I don't know how to say anything, but that's, well, I'm going to be kind, but it's been 11 years they've been working on these ordinances. This is not something new, and it's almost a form of denial. And I just reject that because there's science, there are authoritative organizations that are telling us what we need to do. And so to have a developer actually say that, well, we don't know what to do, I reject that. But so Toronto, glass skywalks connecting buildings, glass walls around planted atria, windows that form glass corners, and exterior glass guardrails or walkways are dangerous because birds perceive an unobstructed route to the other side. And I want to say what was the impetus for this bird safe ordinance that we keep trying to get in the first place was one of our own staff members, Jamie Coomey, found 2 dead birds downtown. And they had flown into a window and they were laying there on the sidewalk, little songbirds, and she picked them up. And then she was actually facilitating the SEAC commission, our environmental commission. And then she worked with the chair of that commission and Audubon Society. So this was all started with one of our own community members finding dead birds on the sidewalk. And and the windows that are facing, I think it's south, it's an entire wall of windows, but the guardrail, the windscreen, and those windows, oh my gosh. I mean, please do something about that, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Aaron. I think those are very important points for us to hear and for the applicant to hear. Guy?
Hi, this is Guy Brenner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. And again, I apologize because I'm so a little unclear on how the process works. But I appreciate the chance to speak. I should mention I received notice of this hearing from a mailed postcard, but all the links on it were dead. So I think that maybe more people might be commenting or would like to, but are unable to figure out how. I don't understand why it is okay to have a project that is so out of proportion with the houses on that side of Blake Street. I would request that it be reduced to the size of the biggest building there, which is a 3-story apartment building next door. The other houses are like 1 story. It's one thing to build 6-story apartments along Shattuck or major boulevards, but this is a neighborhood. I used to be able to see the hills outside, and now I can't because of the building that's going on that is already being added. Across the street from this project, the entire block is being raised, the entire block, to make room for more giant apartment buildings. What was once a neighborhood is gone. It's disappearing. It hasn't been all built yet. And each project had an impact report and an approval process, but apparently it seems like nobody is considering the cumulative effect of all that development. I just want to reiterate that this project is out of proportion. It's too big. It's going to shade the poor, unfortunate people who live next door. And frankly, when you have a block that's filled with 6-story buildings like this, they appear new, but they are bleak and soulless. They become cultural deserts. They quash the spirit. Their storefronts sit empty. They are not the Berkeley I have known and loved. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you for coming in and speaking your mind, expressing your thoughts. It's 8:55. That's our final speaker from the attendees. Before I close, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, but before, I would like to give the applicant a chance to respond to those comments while they're fresh in your mind, and then I would like to take a captioner's break. And Igor, I think it's a 3-minute response. Is that right?
It is, but Chair, I just saw a new hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Kelly's hand just came up. I'll reopen the public hearing to give Kelly a chance to speak, and then we'll probably close, take a break for the captioner. Kelly?
Thank you. I think when I switched from full screen to partial screen, I lost my hand up. So I appreciate that you let me speak.
Sure.
It was the baby Falcon Lux in 2017 that died by crashing into a glass enclosed balcony. And so just as Aaron has said about the glass on these railings and around the building, we lost one of our precious falcons. And I don't know if any of you watch those baby falcons, but I kind of look at them every day, how they're growing up on the top of the campanile, and one of them died crashing into the glass balcony. So since you have more time, I would ask that you bring this building back. It's a really, an unattractive building, and we should be sure that that glass enclosure for the walkways is replaced with something that is friendly. And I also feel for the neighbors. I think that that's really unfortunate. And as far as bird safe glass being evolving, I've just met a new neighbor who builds high rises in Oakland. We had a short discussion. I have to go back and get his business card. I forgot to ask for it. And he was shocked that we don't have bird safe glass as a requirement here in Berkeley. He does it in Oakland. So this is not like it's something new that we're talking about. So if anybody builds in the other cities besides Berkeley, they have to have bird safe glass. So those were really my main comments. And then looking at the ground with all these kind of brickwork and stuff, is that going to be permeable, or is that all going to be sealed? Because there's a lot of open space here, and it would be really nice to make that all permeable paving. It would certainly help our drought that we have water sinking into the ground instead of running off. We're in a very bad situation with the drought, and we're all going to be on rationing soon. So we should have permeable paving. And there are 2 cities right now in California that have been told not to build any water use development, including housing, because of shortage of water. So it is really a consideration. It's something that we're going to have to be dealing with soon. So those are my comments. Please bring this back so that we can go over the design again. You have enough meetings to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. With that, I will close the, we have Charo Manzilla. Nope, we do not have any more hands up. So, okay, we have a hand up. It's Charo Manzilla. I know we're supposed to have a captioner's break here.
I
but
think we need to break first because of 8:50.
Charo, we'll hear you after the break. And that's a 10-minute break, Samantha?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll meet back here at 9:10, please, everybody. And let's try to get this wrapped up. Thank you. See you at 9:10. Well, it's 9:10, and everyone appears to be here, although their screens are not on. I guess I'll give the commissioners another minute or two to make their appearance. Say yes. Thanks for showing up. You and Michael. You guys get up, and there's Shoshana. Gradually, they emerge out of the mist. Okay, Debbie. Well, we have a quorum. I'd like to move things along here. So I'm assuming that Igor and Carrie are out there. There's Jeff. That's great. Charo, Brian, if you could recognize Charo, give her 3 minutes of speaking time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My house is the house next door. If you can see the building that you are planning to build, it's a 6-story building. It's too high. And you can see a tiny house next door. That's my house. And we're senior citizens also. And my concern is that that building that you're trying to build doesn't have any parking structure. And so there's going to be a lot of people trying to park. You said there's going to be 12 units. It's going to be 5 people in each unit or something. It's going to be around 70 people. And there is no parking around. And you know that area on Blake, there is no parking at all. So, and then if there is going to be 6 floors, there's going to be any sun at all. We're going to be in the dark. And it's going to be a monster building next to my tiny house. So we are opposing, me and my husband, we're opposing to this project. It should be okay if it's 3 floors, probably be better instead of 6 floors. Even across the street from Blake, the building is only 5 floors. So I don't know why the city of Berkeley is, doing this to, instead of having 3 floors, it's going to be 6 floors. You're going to see how dark my house is going to be. We won't be any, we won't have any sun at all. It's going to be on the dark. It's going to be awful. I thought you have to protect the people of the senior citizens that live in streets, in Berkeley. So that's the thing that it's we're opposing. My husband Walter is here too, and we both opposing to this. We're senior citizens, and not only that, the house will complete. I agree with John and Sharon about that. It's going to be complete darkness. It's going to be a lot of people. No parking, especially no parking. Right now, there's no parking at all. And now that construction, that building, it's not going to have any parking structure. That's the way I understand that it's not going to be. So where are those people going to park? That's my concern. So we're both opposing to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for coming in.
Yeah, here's my husband too.
Yes, also, we are older people. We've been living in this house more than 50 years, okay? So we want to know exactly where are we going to go? They're going to keep us in the darkness. Please. This is very, I cannot even sleep thinking every night what this is going to be next to us. It's going to be a crime. It's very bad. It's very bad. Mentally, I don't feel well about this thing. So please, I want you to take, gentlemen, in consideration our age, the time, all the time we've been paying taxes for the property in those areas. We never expected that those big monsters coming out and chasing out where? Where are we going to go to find the sun? Anyway, I'm sorry. This is all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming and speaking tonight. That does complete our comments from the attendees. And Fang, you have, I believe, 2 minutes for a response, if you wish.
Yeah, so there's one thing I want to point out is actually about the bird safety glass. So this is my first time I think to know about this, but actually the render is actually made a mistake. If you guys look at the drawing A3.2, the elevation drawings. So for the guardrail on the rooftop and all the guardrail at all the open corridor is actually a vertical bar. It's not glass. So that's our mistake. The rendering showing it's a glass, but actually it's not. And regarding the windows at on the facade, we are willing to look into how to accommodate this technology. We didn't know that before, so we're willing to do some research to see what's kind of other city the procedure what the other city doing about this, and what's the other, or if there's a product or the, I think it's Aaron mentioned, oh, I forgot, it's Kelly or Aaron is saying to install the screen for the outside of the glass to protect the brick. We are willing to look into that. So I want to point out this item.
Thank you. And just to be clarifying, the vertical metal railing, is that just at the roof, or is that throughout the project?
It's throughout the project for the whole thing, the rooftop and all the open corridor, and the interval is 4 inch. I think that is following the building code. So I think we will revise the render for sure. I think that is misleading for right now.
Yeah, I saw in the elevations it's identified as that, and if we make a motion, we'll underscore that.
Yeah.
That there's no glass there. Thank you for that. So I'd like to close the public hearing then and bring this back to this committee. Before I hear the comments of the committee, that I'd like to personally address the concerns of the neighbors.
Charles, that's one more thing I want to mention is, I think
yes,
Deborah has mentioned about the landscape. So we actually, you can see at our landscape plans, we actually we're trying to provide a permeable pavement, and we're actually trying to maximize as much open space as possible. That's why we have the ground floor open space also at the rooftop. That's what I do.
You do intend to optimize permeable pavers on the ground?
Yes. Yes. I think that if you can look at our the water efficiency calculations and also the Bay Area, the water checklist, we actually follow all these coordinates. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks for raising that. I appreciate that. So we heard some really impassioned testimony from neighbors, and I fully appreciate and understand how this feels to you. I live in a two-story home myself, and I would be quite chagrined if a six-story building like this were going up next to me. The problem that we have is the law as written by the Planning Commission, which writes the code and then it's approved by the council, identifies your neighborhood as a R4 district. And that's probably something you've never heard before. You probably never had much interest in, but that is the densest residential district allowed in the city of Berkeley. I think there may be an R6 and a little bit of, but R4 is extremely dense. It does allow for 5-story buildings. Then there's a state density bonus law that allows you to go above 5 stories, and that's included. And we don't make the laws here. We're a judicial body. We have to enforce the laws. So what that means is that our hands are tied in terms of approving this project as a 6-story building. We can't say, no, we'd rather it be 3. It'd be much nicer if it was 3 stories for the neighborhood. I agree, but we can't require that tonight. We're obligated to enforce the laws of the city, which call for significant density near our major commercial corridors, near Shattuck Avenue, for example. So we can't provide you any relief, and I'm really sorry about that. I do want to say that I feel that the architect and having the sort of two towers and leaving the middle open is allowing light and air where there is a yard adjacent. And I do appreciate, as an architect, that effort, which you may not recognize or realize, but you will enjoy when there's light in the afternoon coming through that courtyard area that he's provided.
Yeah,
So I think that's a sensitive moment. I just wanted you guys to know that if we do, I don't know if we're going to vote approve this tonight, but it will eventually be approved, and probably in a form very similar to this. We have very little latitude over what we can demand or require of this project. So if we do vote for it tonight, or when we vote for it in the future, it isn't because we don't care about your feelings or your lives. We do. We're all citizens of this town. And I really heard the passion and the concern that you voiced. I know that's cold comfort, but I just didn't want you to think you were being ignored. Igor, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. You said much of what I was going to say, and much more eloquently.
I don't know about that.
I'm kind of always reminded of an experience I had when I was running for the Berkeley Rent Board now 6 years ago. And I was on campus just doing last minute get out the vote activities. And it was evening, and every classroom we went into had at least one student who clearly was living in a classroom because they did not have any other roof over their head. And so I am deeply sympathetic to the concerns, certainly of folks who have been here for a long time. And this is a big change. One of the reasons that the state laws have come in order to increase housing production is, unfortunately, there still remain too many folks who can't afford housing at all. Will those folks be living here? I don't know. It does provide 2 low-income units, and I, for one, don't believe that supply and demand is the solution to everything. We also need to continue to further policies around housing preservation and tenant protection. But we also have to deal with production as a strategy towards housing affordability. And I know, probably everything I and others say here will be cold comfort. I understand. I did want to point out, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is an RPP area. Condition number 57, I'm going to read it into the record, says, no residential parking permits shall be issued to users of the site. And then it discusses some specifics around that. But basically, the tenants that live here are not expected to own their own vehicles. If they do, they will need to find a place to park them outside of the neighborhood. If I recall, and I did live not too far from there at one point in my life, the RPP zones cover a pretty significant part of that neighborhood.
Thank you for that, Igor. Hopefully that does address somewhat the parking concern that was voiced by several neighbors. I do want to say that on the parking issue, that council I think it was January of this year, voted to eliminate the parking requirement. So we cannot require parking of this project, it formerly would have been required to have 12 spaces, but that's no longer the law. So I want to open it up now to discussion, and Karen, I'm particularly interested in hearing your thoughts. Please speak.
Well, I'm not an architect, and some of you are. So I'm going to ask you to try and help me with this, but I'll point out what I've noticed. First of all, the window walls on the north and the south, they each only go to a bedroom. Each window goes to a bedroom. There are many other bedrooms in this project that don't have these large windows. So I do not see any reason for those windows to exist, particularly the ones on the south, because south-facing windows are just heat. You know, that's all they do. They're heaters. They heat the space. You can't enjoy the space because you have to have something to block the heat from heating you up. And I've just come from this horrific 4 months taking care of my dad, and this is what I've been faced with every day: south-facing windows. Not a good idea. But even the ones to the north, when I was a kid in Berkeley, there were certain nights when the auto dealers right up there on that corner of Blake and Shattuck would turn on searchlights. The whole city would see it, and we would all go there. That was the idea, anyhow, to buy new cars. So even the ones facing north will just be searchlights to the neighborhood. They'll just be radiating their light down on the neighborhood. I would like those to become something different. Again, I'm not an architect, but certainly you guys could think of this. I'm perfectly fine with the material presented for the first floor, concrete, fine, appropriate. But the stucco on the walls in white is just boring. It's just nothing. And there needs to be either color or something to enliven those walls, to not just be white reflective walls. I'm conscious of the fact that the developers from LA, and probably that's appropriate in LA, it's just not very appropriate in Berkeley. There's so many other options. I've heard the walkways are going to be supposedly bird safe, and there's permeable paving, so whoever makes the motion, and it won't be me. And Charles, thank you for reading out what you did for the neighbors about what our job is. Our job is to help make sure we have as much housing built in Berkeley as possible, but it is also our job to follow the law. This is the law. And even though you might expect that only a 3-story building would be built there, the height limit is 35 feet. In fact, it's more than that, because this meets the requirements to be this. So this is the envelope we expect. It's just not what the neighbors expect. And I'm really, really sorry for that. But Igor, thank you for bringing up parking, because I looked it up. It is an RPP area, so they do have residential permit parking there. And this building will not be eligible for receiving those permits, correct?
Correct.
So those people who live in this building will not get those permits. The idea is to have tenants who do not need parking, either because they're students, they don't own cars, they ride bicycles, whatever. That is the intention of Berkeley, right? So
Carrie, I think I could support a motion to remand this to design review. I think that's within our purview to do for a final design review. And I personally would support a motion, approving it tonight with that condition. In particular, Fong, because you have a 4-foot setback on the sides. You could introduce more glazing into those big blank white walls, or provide other visual relief to those walls. And I think that given that we don't know when or if there will be other 6-story buildings built adjacent to this one in the future, those are just as important to you as the architect and to your client as the facade on the street. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to consider Carrie's comments on those 2 facades and bring something to us, some options perhaps for how you might treat those walls. The other concern I have, speaking as an architect, hearing Carrie's comments, I note that you don't actually have any windows in your living room, in your KDL. And I think that's you'll have a code issue with the building department on that. Plus, of course, I mean, obviously you want to get on and you present your drawings for the entitlements, but that's something you're going to need to be studying and developing. And if you could bring that back to design review, that would also be a good thing for us to look at. Anything else, Carrie, that you think that Frank should take a look at in a final?
No, and I am just perfect with the idea of going back to final design review. They will look at all the issues that folks have brought up.
Yeah. Thanks, Carrie. Debbie?
Well, I have a question. I just wanted to clarify. This is the first hearing. If we reserve one hearing for appeal, then there's 3 hearing options left. So can we send it to, continue the item and send it to preliminary design review and then come back to ZAB? Because even though it's not required, at least 10 years ago, the staff could always recommend it to design review, even though it was not required. So I'm wondering if the ZAB could recommend it go to preliminary design review. I think it's more, I would like to see these issues addressed before we vote on it, because I think the interior layout may change, the fenestration may change, the color may change, and that's a lot to do after ZAB's approved it. So if we could take one of the 3 options on hearings and have one go to preliminary design review and then come back to ZAB for a second hearing, I would prefer that over approving it and expecting substantial changes at final design review. And I don't know if that's legally possible, but I believe we've done that years ago. We did that on one other occasion.
Well, I would say
the rules have changed, so I don't know.
If staff has the ability to recommend an R4 project for design review, if they have that discretion, certainly I would think we would. Shona, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. These issues aren't unimportant, but I don't think they're important enough to warrant any significant delays to this project. This is a housing project. We really need housing, as we all know. Don't need to explain that. And even having it come back to final design review, I was going to ask if that plan was how much of a delay we would expect that to create for this project. And if it was very minor, I would support it. Otherwise, I wouldn't. And I think what Commissioner Sanderson's suggesting sounds like it would be a pretty big delay, and I don't support that. I don't want to hold up any housing project in these kinds of issues.
Thank you for that thought, Shoshana. Rather than discussing this in the abstract, what I'd like to have would be a motion put forward by a member of this commission so that we can then discuss the motion. Do we have someone prepared to provide a motion? Debbie, your hand is up. Carrie, your hand is up.
I'll provide a motion, and because I think I understand Shoshana's concern. On the other hand, this is a big building in a low neighborhood, and so I think these issues, we may not have faced them so directly before, but we will face them again. So I guess I'm partly concerned about the precedent. But I make a motion that this project, that the Zoning Adjustments Board send this project to preliminary design review, and then it can come back to ZAB for approval in order to address the issues of the color, the fenestration, the location of the windows, which may drive an interior change on the layout of each of the units, which may affect the bedroom count. I think they're all linked. That's my motion.
Thank you for the motion, Deborah. Igor, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Commissioner. And I I remember when I was still in this role and you were staff, and I'll always appreciate your wise counsel and perspective. I think I would be comfortable supporting your motion if there was a unstated understanding that when this comes back to us, the issues that we would discuss and debate would be limited to the design characteristics of the project that you just mentioned. I know it's going to be a de novo hearing. I know we would invite, certainly members of the public to speak on this again, and that's important. And of course, we would be free to speak on every aspect of this, but I don't want to debate issues where there's agreement again. And I think the delays that Commissioner O'Keefe speaks to could be ameliorated somewhat if we just have a very manageable list of things of criteria to discuss when this comes back.
I'm open to that. I mean, I think the only concerns that have been raised are those that we can't legally address, which is the height and the number of units. Unfortunately, that's no longer our purview. But we can do better, I think, on the design, and this is the first hearing. So it has not had the number of public hearings that are allowed by state law. So we have some flexibility, even though it would, I agree, Shoshana, it would slow the project down. But I would happy to amend the motion if we can. I mean, I think it's only the design issues, particularly the fenestration and the color, and that are the issues here. I think the architect did a good job by having two buildings with this break in the middle. So there is a sun window that can, move across the adjacent properties. I think that's a very good effort. But I would like to have some of these other issues addressed.
Okay.
I would, Shoshana, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks. There was a second to that motion?
I believe that was the second, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a substitute motion to approve as is with recommendations that they look at the issues that have been brought up regarding the windows and the color. But that's it.
To be reviewed by staff?
Sure.
How do you do that legally?
That's an alternate motion. Is there a second for Shoshana's alternate motion?
Second.
Very good. So we have an alternate motion. And I see, Debbie, your hand is up.
I just want to understand how this would work. We would approve the project as proposed, and then it would go to staff, and staff would make advice on changing the windows and the coloring. Does it come back to us after that, or is it that we will go along with whatever staff works out? It's the latter.
Shoshana?
For me to answer? Yeah. Yeah, it's just up to staff. It doesn't come back to us. It's my understanding.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a alternative motion to approve this as submitted with staff review of fenestration or color changes to enliven the east and west relatively blank facades. Discussion on the alternate motion before we take a vote on the alternate motion. Yes, your hand, Deb, is your hand still? Yes, go ahead.
Maybe I'll just explain my second quickly. You know, this project, you know, we talk about we don't want to add any new delays. I just want to mention that there are delays that have already happened. This project was proposed over a year ago already. And that was just when the application was deemed complete. So when you look at the schedule at some of these projects and the urgency of needing to get things built and done, it's actually this process that's happening right now that's already a year long of process. So we're not just, this isn't just an issue of adding on a small delay, but it's sort of adding on to a series of delays that have already happened.
I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Without the urgency.
Any other comments before we take a vote on the alternate? Michael, I see your hands up, and I see yours, Shoshana.
Just curious, what would the additional delay be if the first proposal versus the second? Like, what timeline are we looking at?
That's a good question, and I think Samantha is best equipped to estimate what that might be.
I actually don't know when this would be able to go to design review. It's hard to say definitively. I don't know, Sharon, if you have any sense of how much lead time might be needed.
I don't know what the how busy DRC is right now. It seems like they are fairly busy, but you know, staff reports need to be put in a few weeks in advance, at least.
I see, Debbie.
Does that mean I can talk?
No. Sorry, I was just gonna say that, you know, I would imagine it would be, you know, 2 months at a minimum. You know, but it could be longer because we do need to prepare staff reports and.
May I introduce an alternative that combines what Shoshana said and what I said? And
I would love a resolution of this that could get us to.
What if we continued it? What if and let me just put the idea out, and then we'll figure out what the process is to get it. If we continued it for a month. In the meantime, it would go to staff for the staff level design review that Shoshana mentioned, and then just come back to us so that we could see the final. I'm a little reluctant to approve a project and then have significant changes made to it after we've approved it, but I don't want to delay it. We could do staff level design review and come back in a month to see, then there'd be a month delay, and that would be that.
So this is a friendly amendment to Shoshana's motion?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I appreciate the spirit of that. I think I'm going to keep my motion as is, but if it fails, Commissioner Sanderson, and if you made that change to yours, I would support yours.
Okay.
But I'd prefer to just approve this tonight.
Okay, thank you. Igor, your hand is up.
Well, yeah, so I was actually thinking along similar lines as Commissioner Sanderson. I just wanted to ask staff, what is your workload? Can this feasibly come back next month, given the large, I mean, we're only meeting once a month right now, the large volume of projects you already have. So just wanted to be, like, I would feel comfortable supporting that change if the substitute doesn't pass, but I wanted to ask staff, what is your workload right now? Can this reasonably, do you feel comfortable that all the changes being requested will be made ahead of a month from now?
Well, staff reports are due about a month ahead of time. So something that we want to schedule for next month is already due.
It was due 2 weeks ago.
It already was due. So we're kind of past that. It would have to be, the earliest would be not next month, but the following month.
Yeah, even that might be challenging because we're meeting the second Thursday in July.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Shoshana, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment of a different nature, which is along the lines of what I originally proposed, or what actually Carrie originally proposed, which is that we approve it tonight as you've suggested, to keep the ball rolling, and that prior to receipt of the final building application, they can go forward with their permits and so forth, that they just come back to the design review committees as any project would do in a commercial zone, for example, to show the design review committee some of these changes. And I would welcome, when that happens, any member of this commission to come to that meeting. And that way there would be no delay in the process. Because speaking as an architect that's gone through that, you just keep working right through. You don't have to stop and wait for the design review hearing to keep your stuff going forward. You've got plenty of work to do. So would you consider that? Because I think that would kind of blend the two in a way that we could maybe get some consensus and get a vote tonight.
It sounds like that would, in theory, not lead to any delays. So I'm open to it. And I see the applicant nodding enthusiastically. I'll take that as his blessing, which is nice to have. I guess my only concern is, what if design review doesn't like it, and then it gets stuck in that process for a long time? I mean, what is the probability of that, or what would that look like?
That's a pretty remote probability on such a narrow scope as the one that we're describing. The kind of changes that design review might require would be asking for an additional color study or an additional, material study that wouldn't stop them from moving forward with construction. So the design review committee is very aware of schedule and does a really good job of keeping projects moving along. So I would be comfortable with that.
Okay, you have a lot of credibility with me, Charles, so I will accept that amendment.
Thank you.
Who seconded me? Yes, was it you? Is that right with you? Okay, great. So yeah, that's fine.
Great. Then our amended alternate motion would be for approval tonight as presented, with a visit to final design review, which found that you have to get through final design review to actually build a project, but it gives you an opportunity to look at those east and west elevations and give them a little more character and quality. So
yeah, I think that's a little the question about that. I think we were definitely looking at the east and west facade. That's for sure. I think for the colors, that's no problem. We can study that. And about the south and north fenestration, so that is actually a requirement by that's a bedroom that's have the egress requirement basically and also the living room.
Yeah, I don't think the north and south elevations were really the issue.
Okay.
It was really east and west.
Okay, that's cool. Okay,
thank you. To give the neighbors something nicer to look at.
Okay.
It's going to be a big impact on them. Okay, well, great. Debbie, are you?
I just want to say that I can support that. I think that's
great.
A compromise.
That's
I'm happy
great to hear. Thank you. All right, well, wonderful. I think that was a worthwhile discussion. And thanks for bringing these issues up, Carrie. In that case, I think we're prepared to take a vote, Samantha.
Okay, and so the vote is to approve the project as presented with a referral to final design review for fenestration and color on the east and west facades.
Right.
Did I get it?
Well, yeah, I mean, for more visual delight on the east and west facades. Carrie, your hand is up. I want to be sure that
I just want to be clear about the north and south. Like,
yes,
there's a really prominent building on Ludbrook Grove in London I've watched for years and years and years. It's all glass, and the original window coverings are long gone, and every window looks different because the tenants just put up their own window coverings. I think these windows, I'm telling you this, Charles, because it matters at final design review. The windows on the north and the south have to have a way to block the light from hitting those neighbors. And it has to have a way to block the light from outside being too much of an impact from the south. So I'm just saying it to you. It's not part of the motion.
I hear you. And Fine hears you too. So thanks. That's a good point, Carrie. All right, so we'll be looking at the north and south too, Fine, when you come back in terms of those issues. So good. Let's proceed with the vote.
Board Member Trigo.
Aye.
Thompson.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Keefe.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Chair Khan.
Yes.
Sanderson.
Yes.
And Kim is absent.
Okay. So it passes and subject, of course, to an appeal to council. My advice following is one architect to another is that you get in front of design review as soon as you reasonably can so that it doesn't impact your schedule if there is some kind of a glitch. But you should be able to proceed after the appeal period with, engaging your consultants, your MEP, structural, et cetera, and getting the ball rolling on the major design issues. Okay, very good. That was a good meeting, guys. I think we did as good a job as we can given our limitations and abilities. So I thank you all. Anything else? Oh, Samantha, there was you had something in the staff communications that you wanted to say.
I have two notes. I sent an email, I think to you all, but I wanted to communicate it during the meeting so that it's part of our record and so that the public knows in advance. So we will be continuing with one meeting a month through the end of the summer. So we had tonight's meeting and then we'll meet the fourth Thursday in June, so June 23rd, and then shift to the second Thursday, so July 14th and August 13th. And that's so that we can accommodate the summer recess without skipping an entire month and not having any meetings.
That's June 23rd, July 14th, and August 14th?
August 13th.
August 13th. Okay.
Oh, wait, was that a date that I messed up?
I don't know. I mean, I messed it up, I think.
Actually, let me just double check the calendar real quick because I think
It's the Thursday that's closest to August 13th and 14th.
it's the second. It's the second Thursday in August.
It would be the third.
The 11th. It's the August 11th. I'm so sorry.
Okay, August 11th. Okay, very good. Second Thursday. So the fourth Thursday in June, the second in July, the second in August.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And so I will add that to the minutes.
Okay.
For you guys. And then many of you have probably, I'm going to share my screen if I've given myself permission to share. I have.
Samantha, before you do that, while Fong is still here with us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We made our motion, but Fong, you will be asked about bird safe glass at the design review, I can assure you, as well as the native plants. I just want to make a note of that for your benefit. Go ahead, Samantha.
Okay, great. Thank you. So many of you have probably noticed that the City of Berkeley website has changed. It got a complete overhaul across all the departments. And so I just wanted to show you something that I find a little peculiar on the ZAB page, so that as you're looking for information, if you're on your commission page, I have it blown up kind of big. So I'll go to this week's meeting. So you can find the date and you click on the PDF and so that will pull up the agenda and all the staff reports will be linked. So you can get those electronic copies. You have to click on this little caret to get the supplemental communications that come in. And then this is also where our videos will be posted. Will be under this little caret. I don't think we're working on getting them all up. Yeah, so we don't have any that are posted yet, but we should get those in the next couple weeks, our videos back up. So anyway, so those will also be under that little caret. So I just wanted to show you all how to find those because it's a little different than it was in the past.
Yeah, thanks for that, Samantha. It's important that we have access to those supplemental communications, and it's not at all obvious.
Yeah.
So we now know how to do that. Thanks for the education. Igor, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. This was really helpful. I have a question of a different sort. Last month, we had a phenomenally long meeting and we didn't get to the last two items. And maybe this is a figment of my imagination, but I thought ZORP appointments were on there and I was curious about, so can you just give the just an update on the status of ZORP, and do we need to appoint members again, or are ongoing members on that subcommittee still on that subcommittee?
You're right. It was on there, but I believe that right, it was on the posted agenda, but I think that we do not need to appoint members, and it didn't get put back on. And I know there's a reason for that, and I can't recall it.
It's all good. I'm sure there's a good reason for it.
I know there is. Something about, oh boy. I just cannot remember. I don't know if there's like a change to the structure or just to the way it was moving forward. But I do know that we're not appointing, we're not doing the appointments. Can I follow up with you? I'd be happy to send an email to everyone and do a staff communication at the end of our next meeting.
That's
Sure, I can assure you I probably won't remember by next month.
I'll remember.
Okay.
Okay, I'm making a note. I'll remember.
Okay, anything else from this commission? We don't have any, I have nothing to report from design review, at the moment. So I think we're done. And I won't give a spoiler to the last 44 seconds what happened. You can find out for yourself. But all I can say is go Warriors. And I hope y'all have.
Do you want me to say who won Survivor last night?
No.
Spoiling?
Survivor.
It was really good.
Survivor.
That's all I'll say. You should watch it.
No, I don't think you need to tell us. We can look it up on Instagram. Anyway, y'all have a good weekend and a nice long weekend. And I'll see you next month.
We need to vote to adjourn.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, yeah, I second that motion wholeheartedly.
Okay. Something happened on my order. Okay, sorry. Board Member Trigu.
Aye.
Duffy.
Aye.
Vincent.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Olson.
she's gone.
She apparently thought she's done.
Oh, she already went. Okay. Chair Khan.
Yes.
Oh wait, no, sorry, Vice Chair O'Keefe.
Yes.
Chair Khan.
Yes.
Kim is absent, and Sanderson.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Unanimous. Okay. Now have a great weekend.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
All right.
Have a good night.